I knew the Harry Potter TV show was going to be different. I expected that. But if this next bit of news is anything to go by, then I don't know what to think anymore. Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. It's been nearly a decade and a half since the Harry Potter film saga came to an end. And now, for the first time in ages, we've got a show on the horizon, set to debut sometime in 2027. But since the announcement of the show last year, we've been through an absolute whirlwind of new information. And that whirlwind doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. From casting updates to production rumours, every tiny development surrounding the show seems to set the fandom alight with speculation. And one particular report that came out last week seems to suggest that the show will have something never before seen in a Harry Potter production: a narrator. And that single detail seems to have divided fans in a big way. This news comes from Collider, who, according to their report, stated that the new Harry Potter series will include narration as a central storytelling device. And the job has reportedly been given to British actor Tom Turner, whose previous credits include Star Wars Rogue One. Apparently the idea came from the creative team working on the show, who are hoping a narrator will help re-enchant audiences, giving the story a classic storybook feel and introducing a new generation of young viewers to Hogwarts. If true, this would mark a massive stylistic shift from the original films, which relied almost entirely on visual storytelling and dialogue. For some, the reasoning seems clear. A narrator, especially a distinctly British storybook-style one, could serve as a creative signal that this is a book-first adaptation, not a remake of the films. The first few chapters of Philosopher's Stone, in particular, are full of wry, descriptive narration, the kind that tells us Vernon Dursley had hardly any neck. Some other reports suggest the idea comes from a desire to bridge the books and the show more directly. The original novels are told in third-person limited, closely following Harry's inner thoughts, and a narrator, some argue, could replicate that same intimacy, the sense that we're hearing the story as it was written. Others believe the narrator could serve a purely structural role, appearing only at the start of each episode for short recaps or time jumps, something akin to a previously on Harry Potter moment. If it's used in that way, I think it could work. But as always, the internet has plenty to say about this. It would appear that across X, Instagram, and Reddit, thousands of fans have voiced strong objections, with plenty insisting that the Harry Potter story simply doesn't need a narrator. One user wrote, "Oh, I'm not really sure how I feel about a narrator, unless it's for a recap, previously on Harry Potter. It would be immersion breaking to have it throughout the episodes." Another added, "The films weren't narrated, and I've never seen a narration of a book in a TV series before. Yet another reason to completely avoid this show." And a third echoed the same frustration. "In my humble opinion, whether audiobook or TV series, narrators need to stay away from Harry Potter. You're already having the story acted out for you. Why do you need a narrator as well?" And I hear what these people are saying. In some ways, narration can risk turning the show into something passive, like a guided retelling instead of an immersive experience. They fear it will tell instead of show, and I sort of agree with them. Others are simply worried it will feel gimmicky, or that Turner's voice, no matter how talented, could never compete with Stephen Fry or Jim Dale, whose narrations defined the audiobooks for millions. But obviously not everyone sees it that way, and some fans do seem to be genuinely welcoming the idea, arguing that it could make the adaptation feel closer to Rowling's original tone, or perhaps feel more in line with the books. A narrator in the HBO series could add depth and whimsical nostalgia, framing the story like a magical legend, giving context and emotion, and making the wizarding world feel timeless and mythic, with a literary touch that nods to its origins in the books. Others agreed, saying it could help differentiate the reboot from the 2000s films. This is a great way to set the TV show apart from the movies. It makes sense, since the books were written in third-person limited, and some celebrated the idea. Alright, so they're really going more whimsy with this show. I think I like it. Some were also quick to point out that other fantasy adaptations, like The Chronicles of Narnia and His Dark Materials, have successfully used narration. And if handled tastefully, it could even bring back that wry, omniscient humour that defined the earliest Harry Potter chapters. Of course, this whole debate really raises a bigger question. What kind of show is HBO actually trying to make? Is this going to be a grounded cinematic retelling in the spirit of the films, or something that fully embraces the more whimsical storybook tone of the original novels? Because if you look back at the first few chapters of Philosopher's Stone, there's a very distinct narrative voice, witty, playful, and slightly cheeky. Bringing that to television could add a new layer of warmth and nostalgia that the films never really captured. But at the same time, it's a risky move. Too much narration could feel heavy-handed, or even redundant, especially in a world that's already so visually rich. Fans want to be in the story, not told the story. If we want that sort of experience, we'll read the books. Right now, the rumour of Tom Turner's involvement as a narrator remains unconfirmed by HBO. Neither the network nor Warner Bros. Has issued a statement, and some newer reports even claim the narrator plan may have been scrapped entirely. And whether or not the narrator rumour turns out to be true, one thing is certain. This new Harry Potter show will continue to be examined under a microscope. Every casting choice, every tonal decision, every change from the books will be discussed, dissected, and debated. And with that news out of the way, I do also want to briefly touch on Hogwarts Legacy 2. That's right, a sequel. It seems the idea of DLC has long been abandoned, and the studio behind the game has instead been focused on a full-fledged sequel for quite some time now. Once you hear what they've been working on, you'll understand why. According to Game Rant and several other outlets, developer Avalanche Software appears to be building multiplayer and live service systems for the sequel, features that could transform Hogwarts Legacy 2 into something closer to an MMORPG than a traditional single-player adventure. Hogwarts Legacy became one of the best-selling titles of 2023 by allowing players to live out their Hogwarts fantasies in a richly detailed single-player world. No timers, no online distractions, just pure immersion in the castle, its classes, and the surrounding highlands. That ability to explore at your own pace was part of the game's charm. And while shifting to a multiplayer or MMO structure could fundamentally change that feeling, I certainly don't think it's a bad thing. Personally, I think multiplayer was the only thing that game was missing. But naturally, fans are divided. Some are thrilled by the idea of exploring the castle alongside friends, dueling classmates in real time, teaming up for quests, or forming house-based guilds. But others worry that turning Hogwarts Legacy into an online experience could strip away what made the original game special. Its quiet moments, personal storytelling, and the bond players formed with their characters. For now, Avalanche Software and Warner Bros. Games haven't confirmed anything officially, but the evidence from recent job listings referencing PvP systems, game services, and online multiplayer features paints a picture of a sequel that could redefine what a Harry Potter video game experience looks like. And that's it for today's video. What do you think of the Harry Potter series using a narrator? And do you think multiplayer is the right move for Hogwarts Legacy? Let me know down in the comment section below. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live